40th time that you've hopefully heard that theme live, because this is our 40th Wrestling Roundtable radio show. Hi, I'm the host, Eric Santamaria. I've been in wrestling a little over 7.5 years, probably not much longer, but as it is, had a lot of experience in wrestling and bringing that to the table as well as everyone else. The number to call is 347-857-4647, and we thank you, as we will, hopefully, when you call that number, 347-857-4647, to share your thoughts, opinions, and questions with the rest of the panel. We thank you for joining us here on Tuesday night. Smackdown aired live on Sci-Fi just a little while ago, and we're a day after Cyber Monday. Personally, I can't believe there's a whole day dedicated to masturbating on the internet, but maybe I'm just a little different than everybody else. Speaking of everybody else, I'm inviting you to join us on WrestlingRoundtable.com. There's a huge news update right now on WrestlingRoundtable.com. More results than you could shake a stick at. Everything you want to know as far as the news, who's signed with what, who's left what, who's suing what, who tried killing what. Yes, there's lots of news that you might not have heard elsewhere, exclusive on WrestlingRoundtable.com. And while you're there, please support the show by going to the store and getting the Wrestling Roundtable t-shirt. That is available now, as well as Pro Wrestling Respect DVDs. Pro Wrestling Respect 1 and 2 are also available for download at Go Fight Live. You can also support the show by going to our Amazon store. Yes, the holidays are coming up. And if you're going to be spending any money on Amazon, you can get anything that's available on Amazon.com through our Amazon store and help us out, please. We need it. So, introducing the rest of the panel, Will Effin Brooks, who joins us in our chat room every Monday night, and you can find out his opinions in real time on WrestlingRoundtable.com during Raw Super Show. Will Brooks, hello.
Hello, hello, hello. I'm here, and Will Peters is not, and I could not be happier because of it.
All right, well, let's see if he shows up a little later. Introducing now our radio panelists. First up in Chicago, Coriander Ake. Hey, Corey.
Hey, Eric, and thank you so much for the awesome seats at Ring of Honor.
Well, we'll talk about Ring of Honor later on. Also, our other radio panelist from Baltimore, Maryland, Amira Rahim. Hello, Amira.
Hey, everybody.
Let's get right down to business, shall we, Amira? Because up first is mixed martial arts, and I guess we'll kind of go in sequential order. Last time we did a radio show, which, by the way, all our radio shows are available on iTunes, archived at Blog Talk Radio, and are also available at Go Fight Live. This being our 40th radio show, that's a lot of radio shows, but also archived in podcast form are all our video shows. You know what that means? Do the math real quick. That's over 90 shows available on iTunes. Go into the search box, type Wrestling Roundtable, and there we are. So lots of content for you to listen to through our entire show's history. That's coming up on 100 shows altogether. So that's lots of content for you to listen to. So anyway, last time on the radio, Amira, as I was saying before I interrupted myself, was our talk on some of the big shows that had gone on in independent wrestling up in the Northeast between DGUSA, Chikara, CZW, and whatnot. Well, it seemed like mixed martial arts had a weekend like that. Let's go to first up in sequential order, because on Friday, November 18th, from the Pearl de Palms in Las Vegas, Strikeforce Challengers 20 saw one person really stand out. She's gotten a lot of buzz on the internet, and yes, I said she, mixed martial arts with women fighters. Oh my God. And they're not Cyborg. Who is it? It's Ronda Rousey. She is 4-0 now in MMA. And what's really amazing about Rousey is she hasn't gone more than 1 minute total in any of those fights. Each one of her 4 professional fights have ended in less than a minute, and they've all ended with an armbar submission. In this case, she submitted Julia Budd in 39 seconds. Now, there was some controversy about the referee not being in proper position, perhaps, and we saw that really ugly arm break, and Budd submitted. Now, one of the other aspects of this fight is that recently, and you can read the story on WrestlingRoundtable.com, the women's featherweight champion, and it used to be the middleweight title. They've renamed it a couple times. But Christiane Cyborg Santos recently re-signed with Strikeforce for another year, and apparently, according to her, she's been asked to drop to 135. Now, Rousey, I think, would be someone that you would think would be looked at, especially in such a division of the sport that doesn't have a lot of big names, especially with someone as attractive as Rousey and obviously talented, a former judoka, that they'd want to push that. But apparently she wants to drop down, as she said after she won this fight, to challenge Miesha Tate for the 135-pound title. So all the women, I guess, will be at 135. That's a lot to talk about right then and there. So, Amira, your thoughts right off the bat on the performance, and I guess performances so far of Rousey, her meteoric rise. Of course, meteor is fall to earth, so I guess it's an improper term. Got that from Neil deGrasse Tyson. Anyway, Ronda Rousey and her victory and future prospects in your eyes, Amira.
Obviously, getting 4 armbar wins in under a minute in all her fights looks very impressive. But it also means that we really have not seen her tested yet.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, she could very well be very good, but she could also be the female Cody McKenzie. If you don't remember who that is, he was the guy who was in the Ultimate Fighter season, I think it was the GSP Koscheck season, who was killing everybody with this crazy guillotine. And as soon as he was fighting people that could avoid that guillotine, it was nothing but losses. So you really never know until you see a fighter really tested in there, and she honestly hasn't been. She's also not fighting anything close to top-level competition. I mean, the girl she just fought at Strikeforce is 2-1.
Well, she's 2-2 now.
Yeah. So to really have an informed opinion on what her skill level is, I need to see her in a fight with someone who's at a higher level. That said, she does not deserve that title shot with Miesha Tate, which that shot was supposed to go to Sarah Kaufman, who is 14-1 and has been fighting top-level people. And, I mean, I realize that Rousey's the one who's the loudest right now, and I realize that she's very marketable, but, I mean, she's not at a title-level area right now, even in a thin division like that, when there are people who've been there a lot longer and who have much better records who were supposed to get that shot. I need to see more from her to really know one way or the other.
Marketable being a euphemism for hot. Will Brooks, you just checked out Ronda Rousey, your first look at this force in her 4 fights that she's had, but Amira makes a good point. What are your impressions on Rousey? Do you think that, yes, she hasn't been tested, but is it worth taking a risk on a division or section of the sport that needs a face, needs a name?
No, I understand. Right now, the whole point of Strikeforce, you got to start throwing people at Cyborg just to keep her name out there, to show people how badass Cyborg is, and she really is badass. You see a woman like her, looks impressive, but Mira's got a good point. I mean, she's a one-trick pony at this point. Maybe like telling people, like, yeah, Goldberg looks cool, he spears everybody, but what happens when he fights the guy who can avoid the spear? Well, he's got nothing. Yes, I use this reference to pro wrestling and mixed martial arts chat room, but she wants to lose 10 pounds. Why? Women always want to lose weight. Even mixed martial artists, they're in peak physical condition. Why do they want to lose weight? They look hot. They look great.
Well, actually, Cyborg was saying that being asked to drop to 135, she already cuts weight to fight at 145, so it's going to be even more of a challenge for her to drop another 10 pounds. I don't think she seems too keen on it.
That's going to be an insane weight cut for her.
Yeah, Cyborg's jacked as it is. I mean, she lost weight. She might lose some power. I don't think it's been in her best interest. And, like, Miss Rosie, yeah, I wish she would stay in her weight class, do a couple more fights, at least get to 7-0 before you could think about fighting Cyborg. If they bring Rosie down a weight class and she wins the title and she does well, you're potentially making a huge money match between 2 female champions later down the line, is what maybe they're thinking about. But the problem with that is, if you don't have people throw at Cyborg now, that match is going to get pretty dry pretty soon. And why does everyone want to see Cyborg beat up all these hot women? She did Gina Carano, now everyone wants to see her beat up Rosie. What the hell? Leave the hotties alone.
Well, I believe the general opinion is that should she drop to 135, and it looks like she will, Rosie's going to have to get another victory or 2 under her belt before she challenges for Miesha Tate. So I think people can rest easy with that. But that was Zuffa's first show that weekend. Moving on to the next day, Saturday, November 19th, at the HP Pavilion in San Jose, California. Amira, UFC 139 took place, and as I said last time, I was kind of hoping that this fight, because it was the first pay-per-view after the UFC on Fox show, would get a little more hype. And it's funny that it didn't really. It got a couple ads, but, I mean, Brock was on the show, and it was all Overeem Brock. And that fight's coming up in another pay-per-view, actually, after 140. But anyway, 139 had a really good card, and it's funny that it took place in San Jose because this being where Strikeforce really established themselves, this card really didn't have a lot of UFC originals on it, at least in the starring positions between WEC, Pride, and Strikeforce. Those were the top 3 fights, and really not a lot of UFC names on there per se. So let's get into those fights. The bantamweight number 1 contendership was determined because Uriah Faber, Mr. Marketable, got a victory over Brian Bowles when he submitted him in the second round with a guillotine choke. Faber and Cruz 3 is on the horizon, Amira. Your thoughts on Faber's win over Bowles?
I really like watching both of those guys, and I didn't think this was so much a case of Bowles looking horrible as Faber just looked outstanding here. Bowles landed some nice shots in the first round, and Faber just walked right through it. He was, on a mission in this one. And especially after that performance, I don't have a problem with him getting the next title shot. First of all, their last fight was very close, something a lot of people seem to have forgotten. It was not a blowout or anything like that. And from the things Faber was saying, especially at the press conference before UFC 139, he really understands now how Cruz's style scores a lot of points, even if it doesn't do a lot of damage. And he seems to have every intention of going in there with a different game plan. So I'm interested to see that. At the moment, the pool of bantamweight contenders in UFC is kind of thin. It's sort of hard to make an argument for there being another legit option that they can sell right now. But it's not going to be that way forever. This weight class really is new to UFC, and as much as I was the biggest WEC fan, you have to keep in mind that the majority of UFC fans didn't see any of that stuff. By this time next year, it's still the same 2 guys fighting over the belt, then, yeah, there's a problem. But I doubt that's going to happen. There's a fight earlier in the night where we saw a knockout of the night from a guy who's probably going to be a name in that pool. I talked about Barreau last week, and then after this season of Ultimate Fighter, there's going to be a big influx of bantamweights. So it'll work itself out, and I'm happy to see Faber Cruz again for now.
This next fight, I would like Jamal Reynolds in our chat room to pay extra attention to, because Jamal has written several MMA articles for our website and has taken judo and whatnot and has an interest in different forms of martial arts, but isn't necessarily familiar with mixed martial arts like we are, Amira. One of the things that's come up a lot is that I would like to see some more, let's say, traditionalists get into MMA, because it seems to me that as mixed martial arts has evolved as a style in and of itself, it seems that people kind of take a little bit from a little pool of different styles like BJJ, Muay Thai, straight boxing, amateur wrestling, et cetera, guys who aren't necessarily great at each individual discipline, but have a little bit of each melded together. And I would just love it if we could get just a little touch of a throwback to the old school UFC days where it was pure discipline versus discipline. You don't see a lot of taekwondo, kung fu, karate, different sort of styles like that anymore. And that's why I was really looking forward to Kung Lee's debut. Kung Lee is a real Strikeforce original, going back to when Strikeforce was just kickboxing. But he's also fought in K1, Sanshu kickboxer, and that different style was so obvious immediately with Kung Lee. And even though he lost the fight to Wanderlei Silva in the middleweight division in the second round by TKO, I still loved the fight. I just loved all those odd kicks and other sort of strikes that we're not used to seeing in a standard MMA fight. I just loved it. I was completely entertained by it. And even though I was disappointed my boy Kung Lee lost his UFC debut, Wanderlei Silva is still an old-school Pride guy, too. And it was good to see him pretty much keep his job because he's one of those guys, and we've seen so many of them just this year, who have got a lot of mileage on them. And especially after being knocked out so quickly by Chris Lieben a few months ago, Dana White's like, I kind of want this guy to retire like Chuck Liddell, and I don't know how much longer. But Wanderlei, it was almost like he had a completely different chin from the Lieben fight. He took shots, he came back, he won. Great fight. And along with the main event, I'm glad that this and the main event got fight of the night. They both deserved it. So your thoughts on Kung Lee and Wanderlei, the ex-murderer?
Oh, this was fantastic. I love Lee. It was cool to see him in UFC. I'm very jealous of how well he can throw that spinning back heel kick and not have people see it coming, because that is quite difficult to do. Wish I could do that a tenth of as well as he can. Man, I thought that was over very early when Silva got dropped, and I think that's probably what everybody would have expected, but this actually turned out to be a pretty even fight and just wild the whole time. And, yeah, this is an impressive win for Silva at this point in his career.
Absolutely. And speaking of impressive, that's a word to really summarize the main event, because forgive me, Amira, for not jumping on best fight ever bandwagon just yet. It was like 4 a.m. at a hotel when I was watching it, so I could barely keep my eyes open. I made it through the fight. So maybe I need to rewatch it because I wasn't getting the best fight ever vibe from it. But still, great fight. Dan Henderson returning to UFC in the light heavyweight division and getting a victory over Mauricio Shogun Rua by unanimous decision. That's how I scored it myself. Pretty good fight. It's also funny, I was thinking about this with Dan Henderson. A lot of people, including Will Brooks on our show, have said that Dan Henderson, and it's a great point, is one of the best American mixed martial artists ever. And isn't it funny that he's never won a title in UFC? He's won multiple Pride belts in different divisions, went, of course, to Strikeforce and won the title there, and then in his last fight just had the heavyweight fight, his first fight at heavyweight, just trouncing Fedor. So this guy still has a lot at his age to show, and he got a good victory over another Pride veteran, Shogun Rua. So what do you think of that fight? How'd you score it? Fight of the year? What are your thoughts?
For me personally, this wasn't the fight of the year. I mean, this was definitely an all-heart fight. It was a battle, and it was a great fight. And definitely, especially if you were watching it, I was watching it at a bar, and I think kind of if you were watching it with people, there was definitely like an atmosphere to this fight. Man, I swear by the later rounds, though, I thought somebody was going to just pass out from exhaustion. But they kept going, and despite the loss, I think everybody can probably agree Rua looked much better here than when he fought John Jones.
Do you think this was what Dana White has in mind when he made non-title main events 5 rounds?
Yeah, probably. I can't really argue with anybody for whom this was their fight of the year because it definitely had that epic feel. I think there was a fight in Bellator that I know we're going to talk about that I probably liked a little better personally, but that was more of my style of fight. It depends on what kind of thing you like. But if you're, you want to see something that felt legendary and was just all heart, like this was that. So, yeah, I mean, very, very fun to watch.
Well, what do you think about the point some people are making that what if this was the first impression the public at large had on mixed martial arts, if this had aired on Fox on the 12th?
This might have been a little too far in the other direction. This might have been a little much for someone who's never seen UFC before.
So Velasquez and Dos Santos was too simple, but this would have been above their heads?
Maybe. It was 5 rounds. It was, and especially with it just like the exhaustion setting in the later rounds, like this might have been a little too far the other way. I think Dana said something along those lines afterwards that he was actually glad this wasn't the fight that was on Fox for that reason.
Right. Well, still a great fight and a great show overall, and that was what some people were saying was fight of the year, but as you alluded to, on MTV2 the same night on Bellator 58 from Hollywood, Florida's Seminole Hard Rock, the other, quote, fight of the year, as it's been dubbed, happened between Michael Chandler and the lightweight champion, Eddie Alvarez. Longtime lightweight champion in Bellator, Alvarez lost the title in the 4th round due to submission and a rear naked choke, and holy shit, Amira, what a fight. It didn't have as much groundwork as the Shogun Henderson fight had. It seemed like there was a little more variety between stand-up and on the ground in Henderson Rua, but this one, wow, in the 1st round, didn't it look like in those first couple seconds Chandler had it?
Oh, yeah. It's a good thing that this wasn't stopped in the 1st round.
Just the way he barraged on Alvarez looked like old school Vitor Belfort to me. The 2nd round, pretty even. 3rd round, ooh. It looked like Alvarez was on the verge of finishing Chandler. I think both men were bleeding by the end of it. And then in the 4th round, Alvarez finally took one shot too many and went down, gave up his back, and tapped rather quickly to the rear naked choke, but awesome fight. More thoughts from you on the Chandler-Alvarez fight?
This was just amazing. This is everything that I like seeing at MMA. And this is one, if anybody hasn't seen it, absolutely seek this out. I think they actually have it up on their website still, so you can check it out there. Just a great mix of technique and aggression here. Chandler is the real deal. Eddie Alvarez is no joke, has a great record, been champion for quite a while, and to get that submission, especially after being dominated like that in the round prior, was really something. This was awesome. I think a lot of people feel like the stuff that goes on outside of UFC is kind of minor league and whatnot, and this was one to check out if you haven't seen stuff outside of UFC. This is the one right here. Especially
since you'll have to wait till 2013 to see it on Spike. But if you are a Bellator fan, or MMA fan, really, because Bellator's, it seems like they run every weekend. They ran Bellator 59 a week later, and you've got some notes on that you'd like to share. I just love how Kurt Pellegrino came back for one fight and then quit again.
First of all, this was just a weird, crazy show from Bellator. Just some strange things happened during this. Yeah, it had some names people might know from UFC, both of which had really bad luck that wasn't entirely their fault on this one. Philippe Novaire, who was from Ultimate Fighter, he was on the Mir Nogueira season. He fought Held in what was a very entertaining close fight, but Novaire won that, and I think most people agreed that he won, and he ended up losing a split decision, which it was close, but I'm not really sure how they saw that for Held. Also, as you mentioned, Kurt Pellegrino fought Patricky Pitbull in a fight that was stopped in less than a minute in the first round, and just a horrible, horrible stoppage. He was not given even a couple seconds to recover. That was just ridiculous. Like, crowd was booing like crazy, and it was, just one of the worst early stoppages I've seen.
If they're booing that, I can imagine how they felt about the nut shot in the heavyweight tournament final.
Yes, I'll get to that in a second. Alexis Villa and Eduardo Dantas in the bantamweight tournament final. That was a great fight. Dantas picked up the win and the title shot, and I'd actually be very interested to see him in with the UFC bantamweights. He's got a great reach and some really good stand-up skills and also some skills on the ground. It'll be interesting to see him in with some people that we know.
That's what a lot of people were saying about Eddie Alvarez, and I thought it was funny how, yes, on one hand, there is some good MMA outside of UFC, as you mentioned, but then on the other hand, people have been saying about Eddie Alvarez for a couple of years, I guess up until he lost the title the other week, that this is like the best guy not signed to UFC. Oh, it's just a matter of time. He'll be there, blah, blah, blah. Well, one of the commentators during this fight said that he was the undisputed number one lightweight in the world or something along those lines. And look, I think both of them are great fighters, but that takes a lot of balls to say that when UFC's got like the best lightweight division probably like ever right now.
Yeah, that's a weird comment.
Yeah, I thought that was a little too much, but as you were saying about Bellator 59.
As you mentioned, the heavyweight tournament final. This was Eric Prindle and Thiago Santos. You may have seen the clip of this, which ended in the first round due to one of the worst groin kicks I've seen. Basically, Prindle was on the ground, and Santos just stood up and, threw a kick at the guy's nuts. He ended up not being able to continue, and they ruled it a no contest. I don't know what would possess you to throw that kick. I don't know how that's not going to end up exactly like that. Kind of a weird night for Bellator on that one.
They can't all be winners. Some promotions have off nights, but we always try to have an on night, and our MMA talk is always much better for you talking on it. So thank you, Amira. We're going to move on to we'll see you next time, but we're going to move on to pro wrestling now. No news, no polls. First of all, the news update has been big enough. You can read all the fucking news that you need. I don't need to go into any more detail. Go on the website, and you've got pages and pages worth of content, so you can get caught up on everything, domestic, international, behind the scenes, in the ring, MMA, pro wrestling. All the information you need is there right now. Also, not doing any poll results because, frankly, the traffic to our site has been fucking pathetic, so I'm asking you to go to the polls and vote some more. We want our numbers up. Come on, you need to support the show. The show ain't going to be around forever if you don't support it, and spread the word. So share, rate, comment, and subscribe wherever you are. And those of you who do support the show, listen every week, are in the chat room, and more so, you call in. So before I get to Ring of Honor first up for pro wrestling, I'm going to go to some callers. Anthony in the Bronx, hello.
First of all, I thought Survivor Series was bad. Why do you put John Morrison in a pay-per-view match just to have him job the Dolph Ziggler? You know, that should have been Zack Ryder in that match. I don't know what the hell Vince is on. Either he's getting old or, forgetting.
As much as I've ripped on Vince McMahon and took him to task, I've also given him a lot of credit, given the devil his due. That being said, I think he's really out of touch.
I think
especially
he's gotten soft at his old age.
He has to have been. And the funny thing is like I mentioned with TNA a few weeks ago when we talked about Bound for Glory, and I took Dixie Carter for task for not saying no to Hulk Hogan and pretty much just going along with whatever stupid idea they might have, which is really exemplified by the fact that Bruce Pritchard is the head writer now, but shit is still stupid.
Brother Love, by the way.
Right, but people always said, oh, Russo, fire Russo, blah, blah, blah. Well, Pritchard's in charge, Russo's still on the team, but Pritchard's the head guy, and Dixie Carter's got final say. It hasn't gotten any better, so what does that tell you? So it's funny in the opposite sense, well, maybe not opposite, it's kind of the same idea with Vince McMahon. Well, you can see which show he pays attention to, which show he doesn't, which show he cares about, and it's funny over the years, whether it's Pat Patterson, Vince Russo, Paul Heyman, Brian Gewirtz, whoever it might be that is his head writer or head guy, he's got final say. So he's got to take credit for all the bad shit as well as the good shit, doesn't he? It's the same guy saying yes and no, really. And until Triple H and Stephanie take over for real, that's not going to change.
You think they should bring back Paul Heyman?
I don't know why. Everyone always trumps up Paul Heyman as just give him the book and it's going to be great. Well, he also ran ECW out of business. Not everyone's perfect. Like, I'm a huge admirer of Eric Bischoff, but as much as I give him praise for being the only person to topple Vince McMahon at his own game, he gets as much credit for destroying it. He was his own worst enemy, and he killed WCW just as much as anybody else. So there's lessons to be learned from everybody. People rip on Vince Russo. People praise Paul Heyman, but they've both got positives and negatives. Not everybody is going to be like, oh, just give Jim Cornette or Gabe Sapolsky or Paul Heyman the book and everything's going to be perfect. Nobody's fucking perfect, not even Kurt Hennig.
Exactly.
We got Jamal Reynolds out in California. Hey, Jamal.
Just calling about WWE 12. Despite the hype, I feel kind of underwhelmed. They advertised a new Predator technology. You could attack your wrestler when two wrestlers are doing a move, and you're like, say, the third party, you could go ahead and attack them, and it's supposed to break the move. And that happened in the previous video game, and it doesn't work well in WWE 12. And
well, how does it play compared to the previous Raw versus SmackDown games?
I haven't touched much on a Raw and SmackDown game. The last game I've owned was Raw versus SmackDown in 2006. When it comes to the wrestling games, what I do immediately is get in the game, create my own wrestler, and tear up the roster from there. But in this game, when you get to the story mode, you have to play as one of the roster characters. And in Road to WrestleMania, you're first playing as Sheamus with this new stable. Sheamus. I'm sorry.
Maybe you know something we don't.
You're playing as Sheamus, teaming up with William Regal, Drew McIntyre, and Wade Barrett to win every single championship in WWE. In that storyline, as one could predict, the stable ends up getting dissolved and Sheamus ends up winning it all, and Triple H comes in from behind and challenges Sheamus for the WWE Championship.
Please tell me he wins.
Right after that story mode, you switch to play Triple H, which plays the quote-unquote outlaw story mode. And
let me ask you this, Jamal. From what you've played so far, does WCW come back?
I am not sure. I'm assuming they come back in the next part. I have unlocked Arn Anderson and Kevin Nash so far, so I'm pretty sure they'll play a big part in Road to WrestleMania. I'm pretty sure they didn't advertise it for nothing.
So overall, how would you rate the game?
It's worth a buy, but rent it first, because there's some parts in comparison to the previous games I've owned that I've missed that they don't put in WWE 12. But on the other hand, if you're open-minded, just want to buy the game because the newest one of a new series, go ahead and knock yourself out. I was just thinking, was that really $60? I could use it to buy Skyrim.
Well, I'm completely closed-minded. If it's not using the old No Mercy engine, I am playing it. Staying in California, going to Pomona. Royce, you're on the line.
Anyone who just watched SmackDown knows that Daniel Bryan lost, and I wanted to come in early and just kind of squash, because I've started already hear like stuff. I started already reading forums that they're saying he got buried and blah, 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 and, typical, reaction. I just want to say he was not buried. It was a competitive match. He lost to an enhanced finisher, so it wasn't burial, because I've seen burial. That was nothing close to it. Booker T, Triple H was burial. Undertaker, Kane versus DDP and Canyon was burial. Just Triple H in general back then, that was burial. This was not, and I'm already getting kind of tired of it, seeing it already on some Facebook posts and forums all over right now. It's getting kind of tiring, just as usual.
Let's get back to Justin in Eagle, Wisconsin. You're on.
WWE 12, not exactly living up to the hype. Yet to play it, but I was thinking of getting it. And I agree, Daniel Bryan was not buried. It was a pretty competitive match. It was a little amusing to see him pull out the ankle lock, but didn't really see him throw in that many submission holds on the leg and stuff. Didn't really target it that much.
Let's go back to Corey in Chicago, because first up in pro wrestling, we're going to talk about what happened the day before Survivor Series in Chicago Ridge's Frontier Field House, which was Ring of Honor's Glory by Honor 10. Do you have anything you'd like to mention first off, Corey? Because the first match I was going to bring up was Eddie Edwards defeating Kyle O'Reilly.
Well, the first thing I was going to bring up was the dark match, Mike Sydal versus Andy Ridge. That was a very hard-hitting match. Both men did their best. And, of course, this was the segment where Kevin Steen invited himself to Ring of Honor. He bought a ticket.
So it was really an angle with a match as a backdrop, really.
I paid more attention to the match, but a lot of fans were cheering and laughing at Kevin Steen's antics with Jim Cornette.
Well, of course, because they put a headlock on the whole time. The focus was on Kevin Steen.
That they did. But I think that Mike Sydal is getting a lot faster in the ring. I definitely don't think this should go unnoticed. This was a very fun match.
Well, I thought they did well for what little time they had people paying attention to them, because obviously the angle took up most of that time, which I guess was the idea. But I also like that Andy Ridge is incorporating his Yakuza kick in the corner as a setup for his finish, which is essentially a springboard diamond cutter. And it looked really good. It always gets a good reaction, and I'm glad he did it that way, because I told him to. Anyway.
It was really fun. That was a very fun match. Andy Ridge, really, I can see him in a couple of years maybe making title contention.
I'm a fan of Andy, and I hope he does well in his wrestling career, but someone else who's doing real well in Ring of Honor as far as making a name for himself is Kyle O'Reilly, who is really coming along. The night before in Dayton, Ohio, at the Montgomery County Fairgrounds, he was in the finals of Survival of the Fittest against Michael Elgin, and those two really tore it up. It was obviously designed so that those two, who weren't as established as obviously as the Briscoes or Eddie Edwards or Roderick Strong, who were also in the match, those two made each other that night. They shined. Michael Elgin is really on fire right now. Between his impressive strength spots, if you want to call them high spots, he strings them along real well, he bumps real well, and he's very well liked, I could tell you that much. And he really looked really good in this match. Kyle O'Reilly, of course, was more the plucky younger guy, but he really held his own. And with incorporating so much MMA, because he does jiu-jitsu and whatnot, into pro wrestling, he does it in a good way. And you could always tell the guys who know MMA better than the guys who just think it's cool to copy the shit that they see on TV. The guys who actually do it and do it properly, it's appreciated by aficionados like myself. But anyway, great job the night before in Dayton. But continuing on into Chicago, Eddie Edwards and Kyle O'Reilly, of course, is kind of foreshadowing the final battle match between Davey Richards and Eddie Edwards, a rematch for the title. Dan Severn is going to be in Eddie Edwards' corner, so he incorporated the Dragon Sleeper with the body scissors, which is a move I fucking love, into his finish, because Dan Severn used to do that in pro wrestling. And Kyle O'Reilly being Davey Richards' student, this is a continuation of really an angle they did in Charlotte earlier this year that really was kind of forgotten for a while, where Eddie Edwards made Kyle tap out in a tag match. And once again, Eddie Edwards really is one of the guys in Ring of Honor. Kyle stepped up, looked good in this match. So your thoughts, Corey, on Eddie Edwards, Kyle O'Reilly?
Absolutely. This was easily one of the top matches of the night. I love how technical this fight got so quickly. Those two, it was very hard to tell who was going to win. I mean, we kind of all bet Eddie was going to win, but Kyle is becoming such a force. The two of them, they just went at it with such amazing style. and I love watching them together. I hope that they get another match together because this was a treat to see in person.
Up next was the Briscoes taking on the Young Bucks. Young Bucks doing a gimmick on the independent scene now where they don't shake hands, of course, based on the whole Booker T, Rob Van Dam stories that we've been hearing, and they do a pretty good job with it. They are very much welcomed back on the independent wrestling scene, and the Briscoes defeated them. Your thoughts, Corey?
This was such a fun match. Jay took Nick by the neck right in front of me, so I got some really great pictures that I can't wait to see developed. This was a fun match to watch. It was very brutal, very intense. I'm surprised at how much better the Young Bucks have gotten. I noticed that they're both getting stronger. They were actually able to put up a big fight with the Briscoes. They really surprised me. We didn't know who was going to win. It was a really great match. This was a lot of fun. I can't wait for my pictures to develop.
TV champion Jay Lethal fought Roderick Strong, with Truth Martini, of course, in a non-title match. What do they call it? A proving ground match. And the idea of a proving ground match is that if the non-champion wins or it goes to a draw, that he earns a title shot. And it's an okay idea, but I thought the ending was very fucking cheap. I really didn't like it. It went to a time limit draw, and there were lots of those that weekend with this double shot, but Roderick Strong is guaranteed a title shot now. Jim Cornette comes out and says, well, you got the title shot, but what do you think about if all these people call you a pussy? And so he came in and got another 5 minutes or whatever with Jay Lethal. So Jay Lethal goes on to beat him, which just seemed like a really cheap way to me of them getting Roderick a title shot and doing a job too. I didn't think it made a lot of sense. I figured Roderick Strong would more likely say to being called a pussy, yeah, and I'm a pussy with a title shot, and walk away, than what actually happened. Jay Lethal, though, I think has grown as a performer over the years. I remember when he was back in Ring of Honor originally from 2004-ish on, and you could see really how uncomfortable he was in front of the camera talking. And, of course, now he can talk just fine. I guess all it took was doing impressions of other wrestlers to get comfortable talking. But I also like the handspring diamond cutter that he's incorporated into his moveset. I'm not too crazy about the flying elbow drop because it just doesn't look very good when he does it, but everything else he does is pretty good. So your thoughts on Jay Lethal and Roderick Strong, Corey?
This match should have been a little bit longer. I think instead of a 15-minute time limit, they could have easily gone to 20 or 25 minutes. And, yeah, it is a joy to see Jay Lethal back in Ring of Honor, and it's a joy to see how much he's grown and how much he's matured. His moves are getting a lot better.
We move on to the tag title match, which was wrestling's greatest tag team, quote-unquote, Charlie Haas and Shelton Benjamin defending against the All-Night Express, Kenny King and Rhett Titus. Rhett Titus, really the ROH student from the school who's gone the farthest in ROH. This was a tag title shot, so also coming off a main event in the Manhattan Center in September. Rhett's done pretty good for himself, but I'm a big Kenny King fan myself. I think he's very talented. In the ring, on the mic, he's just got a great aura, a persona about him. However, they came up short, and Haas and Benjamin remained the tag champs. Your thoughts on the tag match, Corey?
I was kind of hoping that the All-Night Express would win this one. I was rooting for them the whole time. But this was a very hard-fought victory. These two have come such a long way in such a very short amount of time, and I hope that they get another title shot, and I hope to see All-Night Express win next time. I really think that they'd make excellent tag team champions. This was a very hard-fought match. They just put their souls into this one.
In the main event, well, of course, Kenny King is soul, he's black. In the main event, the champion Davey Richards defended the title against El Generico. And obviously, the Kevin Steen angle took over a lot of the focus in the aftermath, but it was a considerably long match that I think people were kind of into, but not really into until El Generico hit that brainbuster on the apron. Davey Richards is a maniac. Some of the bumps he takes are just really sick, and obviously the apron being the hardest part of the ring Ring of Honor wrestlers just seem obsessed with coming up with different ways to hurt each other on the apron now. That's the new trend in indies, is doing shit on the apron. First it was the double stomps and the Shining Wizards and slapping your leg on everything, and now it's doing shit on the apron. I don't get it, really. But as it was, this very risky and shocking move really got people on their feet, and it was towards the end of the match, and it was a great near fall for El Generico, but Davey Richards wins with a kick to the head. Compared to the neck-dropping suplexes and high spots before, it was kind of anticlimactic, but all the same, Davey Richards retains, Kevin Steen attacks, and it seems like Kevin Steen is inserting himself, even though he's not officially back with Ring of Honor yet, into the title picture almost. So what do you think about the main event and the aftermath?
Well, first and foremost, that bump on the apron, that was scary, because from my vantage point, I actually saw Davey's eyes just bug out when that happened. That was just so scary.
And he wasn't facing you, so they must have bugged out like Roger Rabbit or some shit.
It was scary because he did a little bit of a twirl and then fell. So you see this look of complete shock, and then his eyes roll back, and bam, he's collapsed. That was scary. I noted that El Generico wasn't doing so much of the comedy we're used to seeing. This time, he was fighting like his life was on the line. He was just so serious in this match. I wasn't used to that. I mean, I've seen him do it before. I'm just not used to it.
Don't you mean serioso?
I think so. My Spanish is horrible, though. I have to admit
that.
his. That was an interesting visual, too. After Davey fell and the referee started the 20 count on the floor, El Generico looks up and he goes, "No, no!" And he's trying to shake Davey awake. He's like, "See, he's fine, wake up, wake up!" But I was just so surprised by how much fire and intensity El Generico had. I really did not see that coming.
Fuego, that's fire. Anyway, this was likely the last event in the Frontier Fieldhouse in Chicago. I know it's sad news for you to hear, Corey.
Absolutely.
But Ring of Honor has been running at the Frontier Fieldhouse for many years and had a lot of big and good matches and events at the Frontier Fieldhouse. So I'll give you a couple minutes here and let's hear some of your memories of Ring of Honor at the Frontier Fieldhouse, some of your favorite maybe matches or moments or whatever.
Well, I started going to ROH at the Frontier Fieldhouse February 26th, 2005. I was 18 then, and it was the first time I had ever heard of or even seen Ring of Honor, so I didn't know what the roster looked like at all. And the first show really blew me away. It was the first time that I saw Austin Aries, Samoa Joe, Bryan Danielson, and I had heard of Homicide, but I'd never seen him live. This was actually my first live wrestling show as well. First memory I have of falling in love with Ring of Honor was the opening match for that show. We had a dark match. It was Tracy Brooks versus Lacey versus Daisy Hayes versus Allison Danger, and that match blew me away and alone was worth the ticket price. Because for the first time in years, I saw women wrestling. Not the sports entertainment crap, they were wrestling, and they were damn good at it. There have been so many wonderful memories at the Frontier Fieldhouse, so many times that I've gotten amazing photos because I follow when they go into the crowd with the brawls, like when Necro Butcher and Jimmy Jacobs went through the crowd. I got so many great photos from that. Brent Albright versus Joey Ryan, Necro Butcher and Jimmy Rave. There have been so many times I've gotten excellent photos from the crowd. And the building, the atmosphere is just something that is so wonderful. And it's very heartbreaking to hear that they don't want to do shows there anymore. I don't understand why. It's a wonderful building. I've seen some incredible things. I've seen when Bryan Danielson took the go to sleep twice from Kenta. He didn't win the match, but he took the go-to-sleep twice. Never saw that before. I saw Morishima there. I saw Bison Smith there, which just makes me even more sad now that Bison is gone. There's just so much about this building. Every time I look at a Ring of Honor DVD from the Frontier Fieldhouse, it feels almost like looking at a home movie. It's just so heartwarming, and I'm always going to cherish my time there.
Is that a joke about their quality?
No, actually. It's actually heartwarming to me. And I'm always
joking, Corey.
I know, but I'm always going to cherish my time there. I've been going for 6.5 years, and I hope that this won't be the end of Ring of Honor in the Chicagoland area. I hope that I'll be able to see them again soon. So I am heartbroken that they're not doing Frontier Fieldhouse anymore.
Well, we'll see what happens in that area in the future as far as Ring of Honor goes, but they are still a presence on the internet, and that's where you watched one of their latest shows from Sinclair Broadcasting. Let's hear about it.
I noted some muffled sound issues just for the first match, though. The first match was Alex Silva versus Mike Mondo, and this was a really great match. Early on, they did a double bridge where they were both trying to outbridge each other. Then they did this move. It was like a double headstand where they were both standing on one hand and trying to hit each other with the other, and their legs were intertwined. This was incredible to watch. Mike Mondo won with a double arm DDT, and he's become so much more graceful since leaving WWE. I can't believe they let him walk. The second match was Jamin Olvencia versus Mike Bennett, and oh my God, that kid really needs to cut his rat tail. I'm glad Mike Bennett won. And the third match, and this is a match I really hope people will go to ROHWrestling.com to see, was Kyle O'Reilly versus Davey Richards. This was a very technical match. There was a beautiful cloverleaf done by Davey. There was a lot of beautiful technical wrestling moves. This is what wrestling is supposed to look like. And the commentary was really good, too. I really like listening to Nigel and Truth go back and forth.
We just talked about Glory by Honor 9, which happened on Saturday, November 19th, same as UFC and Bellator that we talked about before. And we are going to talk about Survivor Series presented by WWE in Madison Square Garden on Sunday the 20th, the day after. But before we do that, we're going to stay in the realm of independent wrestling because, surprise, surprise, just set this up. On our phone right now, we have Alex Payne. Hey, Alex.
Hey, how's it going, Eric?
Oh, I'm glad you're on. It's been too long since you've been on the show.
Oh, far too long. What, was before I went to Japan was the last time I was on the show?
Oh, no, I don't know if it's been that long. I guess it has. We were talking about Pro Wrestling Respect last time you were on, I believe.
Christ. I can't, wow, it's been a long, long time, my friend.
I'm glad you're on now because you, I guess, are a CZW wrestler. I can't believe you jumped ship after Super Dragon jumped you in the Montgomery County Fairgrounds.
4 or 5 years ago at that point now? Right. I went to the dark side, I guess. But, oh well. That's life, I guess. You gotta move on and do other things.
I guess, as you mentioned, it's been since before you left for Japan that you've called in, and you've been really all over the place. I think you've been wrestling more since you came back from Japan than you have at any point in your career so far. Is that correct?
Oh, that is correct. It was slow a little bit coming back. I've focused on college and trying to get a few bookings here and there to keep myself, my tongue wet. But afterward, I think it's been really picking up since January of this year, and I want to say over the last between spring, summer, and now, it's probably the busiest I've ever been in wrestling. Almost every week, something's going on with me. I guess I'm fortunate for that, and I guess going over to Japan helped out something because people looked at me in a different eye, in a different light, and kind of gave me. I've been given more opportunity to breathe life to myself and have more fun, I guess. Just kind of wrestling at my own pace, and I've actually been picking up the pace a lot more. So I've been having fun.
Well, before we get to what you've been doing domestically, if you don't mind, I'd like to ask you a couple of questions about Japan because I think a lot of people were pretty impressed that, whoa, Alex Payne, Sugarfoot from the ROH school is in Japan. And I remember when we did the promotion in Pro Wrestling Respect, when we were talking about you going to Japan, this was a real feather in the cap of Pro Wrestling Respect, but I guess more for you personally, because it was a dream for you to go there, and that's really what people don't know, is how you got there. You made it happen. You went out and you went there, and you trained and came back, and let's just hear how that whole experience went.
Going there, the experience in itself is tough. It's without doubt the toughest, hardest training I ever did in my life.
I remember you telling me about some of the workouts, and they were crazy.
Yeah. First off, you'd get up at 8:30, 9 o'clock in the morning, to get something in you to hopefully get through, a hard 2.5 hour, maybe 3 hour workout between just general calisthenics. I can't close it. We went in at like 10 o'clock in the morning. You cleaned up the dojo. After you cleaned up the dojo, you get into the ring. You start stretching out with all the other guys. Then you would go through a vigorous ab workout you'll be doing anywhere from like 550 to like 750 crunches. Just that alone just shows you how much they're trying to like not just break you, but build you, make you stronger and tougher. Some of the exercises they had me doing were beyond my belief. I've never trained that hard in my life. You're bumping around, especially since I was by myself. I was the only green guy going over there, so it was me doing all the workouts pretty much alone with people telling me how to do things or showing me how to do things. So when you're bumping around for 2 hours by yourself, you wear yourself out fast. Like maybe a little break in between to go to the bathroom or get a little water, because let's face it, I'm training in the middle of summer and it's 90, 100 degrees over there regularly. And if inside the dojo itself, there's not much air conditioning. Maybe you have some fans on around the dojo itself, and you're sweating balls the whole fucking day. So trust me, it was tough. It was absolutely tough.
Originally, you were going over with the intention of just training. But then, after, I guess, a couple weeks, I'm reading, wait a minute, he just wrestled Kenta? Holy shit.
Yeah. Well, originally, the idea was I'm going to go over there and I was going to train. I was going to get some matches. I didn't know how many I was going to get while I was there. And
you didn't expect to be in there with those type of guys either, I don't think.
No. I thought maybe I'd be in more like green guys, or at least if they had any students.
Bobby Dempsey's not in Japan.
No. I was expecting to be any of those guys about my experience level or so. I didn't expect to be wrestling, Kenta or teaming with Marufuji or wrestling Takayama. I saw the first schedule for the first half of my time there, and I'm just like, you sure I'm the guy you're supposed to be wrestling these matches? I was taken back by it, but at the same time, although it was a great learning experience, because you're wrestling guys that you saw come over to the States, like Kenta, for instance, or Nakajima, for instance, and you watch guys that you trained with or your trainers wrestle those guys, and that you never thought for a minute you'd get in the ring with them, at least not this early in your career. To have that chance, 4 or 5 years in, was mind-blowing completely. They were tough matches. They're hard matches. I left some of those matches, bruised up, beaten, completely tired, just soaking in my hotel room. But damn it, it was fun. I enjoyed every last minute of it.
Well, then you came back to the States. You did a couple of Pro Wrestling Respect matches, but I think primarily you've been in different NWA companies between Force One. You were in the junior heavyweight tournament recently. There's been different NWA affiliates you've been involved in, but also ACPW. And now you've been running primarily, I guess, in CZW, as we mentioned before. And how's CZW going for you?
Going well. I debuted for CZW back in September against one of the guys that I trained through them. I got a guy named Latin Dragon. A good match I thought I had. It was fun. I got a lot of good praise from it afterwards. Then DJ Hyde, who owns CZW, was like, I want to do more stuff with you. After that, I wrestled on they threw a benefit show for a wrestling of JT Roberts. So I wrestled Latin Dragon again on that show. I got good praise on that match again. And then I pitched an idea about teaming with a couple friends of mine, Ryan Slater and Joe Gacy, the Runaways. And I was like, give me a shot to team up with them sometime. He gave us a test run at the Night of Infamy show. We wrestled Blackout. So far, so good. I think I've been given a little bit of a ball to run with a little bit, pitching ideas and just having some fun in that company. December 3rd, Wrestling Cage of Death is our biggest show of the year, so I can't complain at the moment.
Latin Dragon was the nickname of my penis a few years ago.
Well, I wasn't wrestling that, thank God.
Not that you want to say publicly.
No, not publicly. I'm sorry. I keep it on the DL, Eric.
But seriously, you're coming to CZW back again, the Cage of Death. That's December 3rd, I believe, in the Asylum Arena in Philadelphia. Where else can we see you at?
The week afterwards in Brooklyn, New York for Fighting Spirit Wrestling. They can go to MaximoBrothers.com to get tickets if you're interested in going there. And the week afterwards, I'll be wrestling for Body Slam Wrestling Organization If you're interested in that show at all, you can go to BodySlamWrestling.com and purchase tickets there. So that's in Elmwood Park, New Jersey, actually. As of January right now, everything's kind of tentative, and there's really nothing during the holidays at the moment. So I'm hoping to be enjoying some UFC during the holidays. So that's where you'll find me probably around the end of the year, parked on my couch, or maybe at a B-Dubs.
We still have the Buffalo Wild Wings coupon we have to use. Come on.
If you hit me up, Eric, we'll go.
We have until December 31st. But before we go back to WWE for Survivor Series, one more question, because we've mentioned CZW a lot and you've been wrestling for them. Mm-hmm. Obviously, they've got a reputation, well-earned over the years, of hardcore, bloody light tubes, U-Haul rental trucks, all that sort of bullshit with weed whackers, fire, everything you could think of. Now, supposedly, when DJ Hyde bought the company, I guess the other year, he was taking it a little away from that. But yet, every time I see CZW results, it's always shit like Tournament of Death, Cage of Death, Ultra-Violent Underground, blah, blah, blah. But you're not doing that sort of shit. So how would you explain it to someone who maybe not following CZW closely, how a CZW show is now? Like maybe the recent one where you were in that six-man tag that was main evented by Sami Callihan beating Adam Cole for the junior title, and Adam Cole does a completely different character in CZW than he does for, like, ROH, for instance.
Absolutely.
And we've seen other names that you might be familiar with, like Mia Yim and Ruckus and names like that. So how would you describe how CZW is now for someone who's not familiar?
Obviously, hardcore is in their history, and it's in their niche. But I'd say 80% of the cards, it's not filled with full death matches. You have Cage of Death, you've got Tournament of Death, you may have a big gimmicky show like Tangled Web a few times a year. So those are like the more focused hardcore shows, where the undercard is usually based on like normal wrestling, junior heavyweight wrestling, or really high spot crazy wrestling, or there's some technical wrestling, some hard-hitting wrestling. It's a variety of show of stuff. The majority of the shows seem to have every little facet of wrestling you would enjoy, and either it's capped off by a hardcore match, or there may be a hardcore match in between there somewhere, or there might be a brawl in between there somewhere. But not every match on the card is light tubes, barbed wire, and bullshit. It's not. Tournament of Death is the exception of the rule, where every match on the card is going to be some form of death match, whereas your average card may have one death match on there, maybe not even any. I mean, now even for me, there was no death matches whatsoever. There wasn't any hardcore crap. There wasn't anything like that. It was mostly a wrestling show capped off by Sami Callihan and Adam Cole wrestling for the junior heavyweight title, and that match kicked ass. So it's not like
not the Zandig days of fuck you with a weed whacker and candle wax and all that shit.
And salt and lemon juice and all that good stuff. No, it's not. I think DJ wants to have more of a variety on his shows, and he tries hard to make sure he pulls that off. This Cage of Death, it's a giant cage full of weaponry and blood and guts, and that's what people are paying to see, and that's what they're going to come to see, of course. But they also got tables matches on the show too, so they have to give a little bit of everything to that crowd, because it is going to be that South Philly, we want blood, we also want wrestling, but we want blood crowd. So it's going to be a crazy packed night, December 3rd, and it's going to be your average Cage of Death where there's going to be a lot of crazy shit.
Don't be such a fucking stranger, man. You got to call in some more. We want to find out what you're up to.
I'm actually having a little extra time tonight. That's why I'm paying attention to the show myself, and on top of that, school is winding down for me, so I have more free time on my hands. So calling into the roundtable is probably something you might see or hear from me a little more often, because I'll have the time on my hands to do so.
Well, thanks a lot. We appreciate hearing your exploits in independent wrestling, and we hope to hear you some more in the future. And before we get to WWE, which is about to happen, going to go to one more caller. Ezenwa, New York, you're on the roundtable.
I just finished picking up the DVD for Evolve 9. It brought up an interesting question.
What DVD?
Evolve 9.
Oh, okay.
I'm not talking about the Sami Callihan, Dave Fit Finley match. I tell you, that had to be one of the hardest hitting affairs I've seen in a long time. And that wasn't even with, strong style kicks or whatever. It was just straight up hitting hard, stomping your nails, Finley didn't look like he lost a step at all, and Callihan retorted. It was an amazing affair. They've now merged with Dragon Gate USA.
It's in our news.
Yes, I read it, and I've caught it from them. And that's question one. Could this be seen as a bit of a move of weakness or a move of strength on their part? Does it kind of make them look like, okay, we can't run two different shows because we can't run two different shows? It kind of makes us look kind of stupid for doing so, so let's just bring them together and bring the universes together. What would happen, let's say, back in the day if Ring of Honor decided to merge with FIP since they had so many matches that crossed over? Would that make Ring of Honor look weaker, stronger, or that make more sense? And the second question I had has to do with the Callahan match. Everyone loved the Callahan match with Finlay, but then after that, they had another great match with Johnny Gargano and Chuck Taylor, and the fans just were sapped of energy. You didn't hear much reaction. And I guess it comes down to booking philosophy. Do you think it really hurts a product or a show if you got maybe one or two key marquee matches up, and if you want to put more emphasis in one match than the other, do you put it last or in such and such? Like in this case, it would have seemed better if Callahan versus Finlay was last, since it seemed like everyone was more into it. But they really want to put emphasis on the main event being Gargano and Taylor, since they're the ones who are trying to see who is the leader. I guess the question I have is, the booking, coming down to booking philosophy, what's the wiser move? You have two key marquee matches that people would want to see.
Okay, for your first question, I don't really see much of a difference. For Ring of Honor and FIP, it would have made Ring of Honor look weaker because it's Florida Impact Wrestling. Who gives a shit? But for Dragon Gate and Evolve, they're more or less the same thing, aren't they? Like, Evolve, yeah, it's got the records and whatever, but it's essentially DGUSA without the Japanese wrestlers anyway, right? So they're still going to be running separate shows. It's just going to be more of a crossover, like Champions and more talent, I guess. I always really considered them pretty much the same thing anyway. It's the same people. It's the same roster for the most part. I don't really see much of a difference in that case. But for the second question, whatever people care about most has to go last, and I think that's really just universal all around. A lot of people, especially traditionalists, if you want to call Triple H that, or even McMahon or whoever decided to make this mistake many times, will say, well, the world title or whatever has got to go last, even though people care about something else. Every time the match that people really are into and people really care about will get the reaction, and then they've almost pretty much blown their wad, and whatever comes after that kind of falls flat. Whether it's Rock and Hogan and then Triple H, Jericho, Undertaker, Michaels the other year, and fucking Triple H, Orton, or in this case, Sami Callihan and Fit Finlay, especially with Finlay being the biggest name on the card, and that was like his first big post-WWE event, main event practically, but it never really works out. Whether it's the Rumble or a one-on-one match or whatever it is that people really want to see, that should go last to me. Hopefully that answers your question, but we're going to move on to WWE Survivor Series 2011, coming at us from Madison Square Garden, the site of many Survivor Series over the years, and many good ones too. Did this one match up to the past great Survivor Series in this building? We'll see. And joining us, Will Vafides. Hey, Will.
Glad to be back. Glad to hear your voice, Eric, even though we didn't even see each other in New York. But I'm sure Will Brooks...
Everyone went separate. That's funny. Like, all of us went, and none of us went together.
Exactly. That was the strangest part of the whole thing. But I'm sure Will Brooks was running out of the building to make sure he didn't run into me.
Well, we'll get to that, what you're referring to, I guess, in a little bit. But let's go in order. I guess people outside the building did not see this, but the first match was a dark match. Santino Marella defeating Jinder Mahal. I don't know if it was just the mic or the sound level or the crowd, but I could not hear a fucking thing anybody said on the mic all night, and especially because Will Brooks and myself did not hear The Rock's post-pay-per-view speech because we were already on our way to the train, and luckily we did catch it. But apparently Jinder Mahal wasn't even speaking in English anyway. But as it was, Santino gets a big pop, and the Cobra finishes. Fun little match. And actually, it was my first time seeing Jinder in action.
I think Santino fits perfectly. That crowd, would have loved him. Always great. He didn't do the trumpet march at the end, which kind of disappointed me, but it's always fun to see Santino win. Good way to start the show.
That was a nice little match. It got the crowd into it with everybody cheering for Santino. If he would have won, he would have lost. It makes a difference. Everybody likes him because he's funny.
The first match on the pay-per-view proper was U.S. champion Dolph Ziggler, who has been pulling double duty lately, and winning, keeping the U.S. title. However, the real story of this match And everybody knows, at least those of you that know me personally, that I don't really follow or care much for WWE's current product. But that being said, I do keep abreast of everything, and I do catch some stuff here and there. Well, let me backtrack a little bit. Obviously, the huge negative reaction to John Morrison was in response to the fact that Zack Ryder had this match first. For some reason, they took him out of it. Now, Zack Ryder would have gotten a great reaction in New York regardless, but I think that the fact that he was taken out of this match really amplified it. And I have to tell you, being there live, and even though it's, bizarro world in certain fucking cities like Philadelphia, New York, or Montreal, or whatever, have different smart, quote-unquote, when they're really not, but certain kind of wrestling fans that cheer certain things. Doesn't matter. People are really into Zack Ryder, really across the board, maybe especially in New York for this kind of fan, fine. But being in the building, he wasn't even on screen, visibly seen, or anything yet. But the fucking deep, guttural reaction that the people have to Zack Ryder, it's a goofy comedy Jersey Shore thing, whatever. People are fucking into it. And it's not in a sarcastic way. Like, they would have loved to have seen him win the U.S. title. This is not a main event. This is not for the world title. They wanted to see him win a mid-card belt. And Dolph Ziggler's really good. I like him. I like his Kurt Hennig-esque, not just look, but also selling. When Zack Ryder ran in after the match and gave him his finish, and Ziggler sold it with multiple spins in the air. I don't know how he did it. He sells really well. But he's been working his ass off lately between the U.S. title matches and the tag matches. So Ziggler obviously is someone they've got pegged for really big stardom in the future. Good for him. I like him. But Zack Ryder deserved that spot. Man, could you imagine the fucking roof coming off that place if Ryder had won? It would have been incredible. He was the star of the match and he wasn't even in it. John Morrison at this point, I don't know why they bothered. Maybe they just felt like they're going to get as much juice out of him as they can while his contract was still good, and then they got rid of him. But he was old fucking news. We know you have no future. Let's move on. Zack Ryder. Holy fuck, are they sitting on something big with this kid. People are fucking into him big time. And that's really what I took away from the match the most. You could just feel it. You could hear it. It was loud. It was guttural. It was deep. People really are into that act. So, anyway, your thoughts on the U.S. title match, Wolf Afides?
My whole feeling on John Morrison getting that shot was they had to sell his merchandise just to get rid of it. So that's my gut feeling on the whole thing. It's just to get him on TV until he goes. They got a lot of merch they got to get rid of. And the match wasn't bad either, because I thought the match was actually still good. Some people, when the finishes were starting to happen, people really seemed to like the match. I was really into the match. At the end of the day, it didn't matter because Ryder wasn't in the match, but it was actually not a bad idea, only for the reason why is that if he would have won that match, that would have looked more important than the main event. And I think the crowd would have eaten that up just as much as the main event. And that probably could have maybe, I guess, hurt in a way that the main event wasn't as important as Ryder's U.S. title win, which is not really the truth. The main event's the main part.
I think the fans realize where Zack is at as far as, like, U.S. title level, and they're fine with that. They just would have loved to have seen him in the match and win the belt.
But I think we all reacted, and I think we all reacted in a way that, what did it matter? No one's complaining about it. I don't think anybody's really complaining about it. He's going to get his shot. Just right now isn't the time because right now Dolph Ziggler is getting pushed like crazy. Why not build this up for a little bit? Why not give it a couple months and really build it up to a real big hype with his Twitter petition? I think it's a great idea, and I think that maybe Royal Rumble time will be the time where I think he might win it.
You agree with that, Will Brooks?
Yes. No, not really, but that's not surprising because Will's an idiot. How do you think a U.S. title change is going to overshadow The Rock and Cena because Awesome Truth and the main event? That makes no damn sense. Now, listen, I'm not saying we got to put the title on Zack Ryder right now. You don't have to. You could. All the people wanted, they just wanted to see him in a match in New York. Judging by the crowd, I'm sorry. The merchandising alone was telling you that Zack Ryder was the main event star just by merchandising alone. He's only, 24 years old. They have plenty of time to build him. I'm not saying let's give him a rocket ship to the top. But, I'm sorry. If you would have given him the match and he would have lost to the Ziggler, I think it helps everybody out included. I don't see how it would have hurt Zack Ryder at all. It would have definitely made Ziggler look big because, again, I agree with Eric. They're building Ziggler to be the next big heel for next year. They gave us teases with him facing Orton and facing CM Punk on Raw last 2 weeks. So they've given us little teasers like, hey, this is what's going to come for you guys later on. But I think if they were to give the match to the Ryder, they had a match and Ziggler wins, whether by cheating or clean or who cares, I think it would have went all around, made everybody happy. At the end of the day, it's always supposed to do, make everybody happy and make money doing it. Now, granted, I see what you're saying, Will. I do. But at the same time, I still think they could have did it, and they could have pulled the trigger on the match. And he'd have to win the title. If he did, cool. If he didn't, no big deal. But they could have pulled the trigger on it, and everybody would have been satisfied. But whatever, I'm not in charge.
Up next was the Divas title defense by Beth Phoenix against Eve Torres, which was capped off by the Glam Slam off the second rope, which was pretty much the only spot people cared about.
I didn't even know it was actually a Lumberjill match until the match started. I saw the Divas on the outside. But I kind of agree. Like, I have nothing against Eve and Beth Phoenix. It wasn't like a horrible match, but the high spot at the end with the Glam Slam on the second rope was pretty cool.
The Glam Slam on the second rope was definitely the highlight of that match. I didn't know there was a Lumberjill match either. I don't read rumors 48 hours out of the show, just to purposely not know what's going to happen. So I had no idea that was going to happen. So I was like,
you hate knowledge.
Yeah, I don't like knowledge 48 hours in advance, especially that I'm going to the show. I kept myself away from all websites, including WrestlingRoundtable.com. And
you and everybody else.
Yeah, it was okay, but the right person won and got me 5 points.
Up next was the traditional Survivor Series tag team match. And what's funny is a lot of people always clamor for those sort of matches to come back in full, but then all the smart marks talk about, oh, they just suck anyway. I wasn't really too blown away by this. It wasn't bad, except for all the fucking standing around when Sin Cara hurt himself. Like, these are supposed to be professionals, guys. Come on. Can't we cover for this just a little bit instead of standing around like deer in the headlights? But as it was, Sin Cara gets hurt. He's out for several months. You can read the details on WrestlingRoundtable.com, but it ends up with Wade Barrett and Intercontinental Champion Cody Rhodes surviving. Yes. And I think a lot of people were surprised. I'm pleasantly surprised, no less, that they got the win over Randy Orton. Barrett hitting the waistland, getting the pin, and two great heels surviving over some guy that's usually the winner, but not in this case.
I was actually really shocked at how much the crowd loved Cody Rhodes. I mean, I like Cody Rhodes. He's a cool wrestler, and I like his gimmick a lot, but the whole crowd was going nuts for him. It was awesome. I agree with you. Like, the standing around when Sin Cara was injured, it was kind of like, okay, yeah, we get it. It's not the fucking match. Other than that, the only thing I didn't like about the match was the only person who eliminated anybody was Randy Orton. Usually Survivor Series matches in traditional sense were used to build a new guy. Or maybe not build a new guy, but show off a new guy. And it seemed like all they do nowadays is just reinforce the stars they have with all the matches, like the Royal Rumble, Survivor Series, and King of the Ring. All they do is reinforce stars instead of making new stars or starting off new people. So Randy Orton getting 3 eliminations and almost pulling off an upset victory of beat up Barrett and Cody Rhodes again. It was kind of like, okay, why? We already know he's a badass wrestler. Can we get somebody else a little bit, at least on the side? I mean,
would you be saying that, though, if Mason Ryan had done the same thing?
The guy who came and run down the aisle? No.
Well, it's someone different.
But yeah, but it's the same thing of pushing these big muscle dudes who can't walk. Did we get enough of that Batista?
I'm just saying, like, who would have made you happy in that spot?
I'm not saying anyone that couldn't eliminate anybody. It's like he's the only one who looks strong for his team. I'm like, if Sheamus had eliminated a guy, it would have been fine. If Sin Cara didn't hurt himself and they hurt a car, I would have been okay. I mean, it's not like saying there's anything bad with it. It's like the same thing over and over again. I just would prefer at least one other guy eliminating someone else is all. I thought it was a decent match.
A side note on Sin Cara, after this whole injury thing, Will Velvetes, isn't it just like, can't they pull the plug on this already? Look, I know they want to incorporate more luchadors, and that's great. Mystico was really good in EMLL. I liked his work then, but it really has not translated here for multiple reasons they could have avoided but didn't. And between the botches at first, then the steroid wellness policy violation next, then this injury, it's like a big fucking headache to get this guy in. I know he sells merchandise. They obviously want to peg him and Mysterio at WrestleMania to break the masked people Guinness records or whatever the fuck. And that's cool, but they need to call up those guys that they tried out in the Mexico tour soon because they need some more Mexicans to fill this spot. This is not turning out well with Mystico. And another disaster, which he had nothing to do with, I guess, was that T-shirt that got pulled the other day. You saw that?
Oh, yeah. Who allowed that to go through? I would love to know that. Who allowed that?
Well, at least we know he's already lost one hood.
Yes.
But anyway, your thoughts on the traditional, quote-unquote, Survivor Series match?
I'm always a fan of that match. I did like this match. Of course, the Sin Cara thing, it didn't really throw anything off the match. I mean, honestly, I feel bad for the guy because he messed up. That's still a serious injury. I mean, the guy's hurt. He may have screwed up, but he still got hurt, and he still does do moves that I would never attempt. I feel bad for him. They jumped the gun on him a little too much, I think, and it really backfired in their face with him. But the match itself looked good. Randy Orton looked really strong. He's going against 4 other people on another team. That was still really good. I thought Sheamus looked great. But at the end of the day, the right people went over. It was definitely a good shocker for us. And it can't get better than beating one of the top faces in the company in Madison Square Garden. Good for Cody and good for Wade Barrett. I was very happy with that outcome.
The Big Show defeated Mark Henry by disqualification when Mark Henry gave him a glata. Low blow. And what's funny is the beginning and end of this match were pretty good, and everything in the middle was pretty fucking boring. What's funny is, like we've covered on the show before, people have been really into Mark Henry's heel act lately as the dominant champion. So he gets this big face pop coming into MSG. People like him, and they do, like, a go behind and takedown and a little mat wrestling. I was flashing back to that ridiculous scientific exchange chain wrestling that Kane and Big Show did back in like 06 or whatever, but they didn't continue with that, and they ended up boring the crowd pretty much up until Big Show risked his fucking life climbing up to the top rope and doing a flying elbow, which I much prefer seeing him do than CM Punk or Jay Lethal, but neither one are doing the proper Macho Man elbow anyway. No one has copied the perfect Macho Man form. It's just a flying elbow drop off the top rope, a la Shawn Michaels, more than Macho Man. But that's just me nitpicking. It's a 7-foot, 500-fucking-pound guy doing an elbow drop off the top rope. Holy shit. He hasn't gone to the top rope in, 12 years? As it was, disqualification. Mark Henry still the champ. What do you think of the title match, Will Vafitas?
I think they're trying to do some submission holds and stuff, and I think that's going away from really what they are. They're 2 big guys, and they didn't need to do all those submissions and things like that. I didn't like that, but damn, seeing an elbow drop off the top rope from a guy that size, he took some time to get up there. The fans are, really pushing for him to get up there, and he did it. It took him time, but man, a guy that size up the top rope, that's a sight to see. That's something I will not forget, I can tell you that much. If anything that I got out of this whole show, that's one of the moments that's going to stand out for me, is watching Big Show do that. Because that's not an easy task for me. I can't even do it that well.
Well, the idea that you can't do a move in wrestling does not shock me at all. But anyway, so the beginning of the match was okay. It started off a little slow, but again, it's 2 really big guys, so I wasn't expecting, fast-paced anything. And again, like you said, it started picking up. And I remember when the Big Show first started climbing the ropes, it looked like Mark Henry was going to slam him or do a move. It was like, oh, God. I remember the arena started groaning because we're like, oh, we don't want to see the ring break again. We just saw that last month. And then the Big Show pushed him off and then did the elbow drop, and the whole place went nuts. I remember it made me flash back to an old episode of the Roundtable when the Undertaker rule, if the match is kind of boring, but you do one really cool spot in the middle of it, everybody just goes, well, this is an awesome match. Oh, my God, this is fucking awesome. That's definitely worked for this one as well. And the ending was kind of weird because you have Mark Henry's been built up as this monster heel who just crushes people, and he kind of turns into a chicken shit heel where he has to keep the title. So, different dynamic, but either way, Mark Henry kept the title, which I'm kind of glad they did. With CM Punk being champion, you probably need a heel champion on the other side. So, yeah, it all worked out really well for me, so I liked the match a lot.
As you mentioned, CM Punk is now WWE Champion, winning the belt from Alberto Del Rio via submission with an Anaconda Vice. He's now 3-time WWE Champion, 7-time World Champion. Corey, you talk about it.
I'm glad that CM Punk won via the Anaconda Vice. This was an okay match, but I really feel that they've done all they could with Alberto Del Rio's feud with CM Punk. I'd like to see something new.
I loved the match. I thought it was great to see that CM Punk jumping in the crowd with the fans. It really shows the kind of character he is. He is trying to relate to the fans by trying to work with them. I thought the match was very good. I liked it. I actually thought ADR might actually win that match. I really thought that I was going to way it was going to go. So I'm glad I was wrong, and I'm glad that CM Punk did become the champion. It started really fueling up the night because things were going great. All the shows were going great, and then that happened. I was so pumped up for the main event after that.
I thought it was a really good match, but it was kind of bittersweet watching CM Punk win a championship because I really wanted to see him win a championship. I was happy he did. But watching it with you, Eric, kind of killed it a little bit for me because you were so, not happy with it. You were the only one in the whole arena who was probably sitting down at the time when it happened. So I like the match. I love how he won with the Anaconda Vice. I like CM Punk. I know you hate him.
It was decisive in the middle of the ring and clean.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's kind of cool. Can't argue with the finish because I like a submission win, especially when he taps out like that. Because we're mixed martial arts fans, so when a guy taps out, it's pretty cool. I think CM Punk should be the champion right now, and I can't argue with results.
They did have a good sequence where they were exchanging finish attempts with the GTS, getting out of that, and high kick and whatever. So that was cool at least. Main event time: The Rock coming back to Madison Square Garden, where he had his first WWE match at Survivor Series '96, of course, teaming with John Cena in a match he apparently, rumor says, asked for against Awesome Truth. I was happy The Miz and R-Truth were in a main event, but not so you'd notice it, because on the big screen on the set, one bar had John Cena and the other screen had The Rock. And during matches throughout the night, whoever was in the match would get one side, like Alberto Del Rio's body comes up on one side and CM Punk's on the other. In between everything, it was back to Cena and Rock, never again. Yet in the main event, it was still just Rock and Cena. I don't think they were even in the ads, Awesome Truth were. And frankly, I was kind of disappointed with the match. I know I shouldn't be, because I paid for The Rock. I went to MSG for The Rock. He went and did his Rock stuff. He did some good moves. He did his signature moves. He did his promos. And I should be happy with that, I guess. But I felt like it was nothing more than a standard tag match. By that I meant at the beginning, when Rock was in the ring showing that he could still go and all that stuff, and he hits a very nice fisherman suplex, but then John Cena comes in and accidentally distracts the ref from making the count. I thought, oh, okay, cool. That's going to be the story of the match. And I figured because Awesome Truth were being so left out of the spotlight and the hype of this match for the most part, outside of like Raws and shit, I thought, oh, that means they'll probably just get the win to make up for it, because that's usually how WWE works. And I figured, okay, when I saw that, the story of the match is going to be Rock and Cena not getting along, and it ends up costing themselves the match, and it didn't happen that way. Of course, Rock gets the clean pin on The Miz, and Rock bottoms John Cena after the match. Now, I figured if that's how they were going to end it, with Rock getting heat on Cena like that, couldn't they have just had that sort of ending with Miz and R-Truth getting the rub from a victory over one of them? They get pissed at each other, and he ends up rock bottoming Cena anyway. I figure in the past month or two, I've gone to see Hulk Hogan and The Rock wrestle. I was much more satisfied with Hulk Hogan's match. I thought, well, of course, the standards are different, but still, I felt a little flat from the match. That being said, Rock looked great, didn't look like he missed a step, and especially in the cool department, he looked like a step above Cena that night, definitely. So your thoughts on the tag match, Will Vafidez?
I loved the promos before the matches with The Rock singing New York. Love that. Loved R-Truth when he figured out that pigeons just don't talk, because they don't. So
I'm glad R-Truth got a promo on a show where Rock had a big promo too.
Yes, because his promo was probably just as good as his. That was like one of the funniest moments. I could talk about it for days. I would talk about it afterwards. The tag match itself was great. Rock looked tremendous, and Cena did not. If you listen to the crowd, they really hated him, and people were hoping for that heel turn. Did not happen. It did hurt because, yeah, Miz and Truth did not get a lot of attention like you would expect. At the end of the day, who is it really about? Is it really about them, or is it really about The Rock and Cena? And the payoff is Cena versus The Rock. The Rock did a great job. I think the promo that we got to hear at the end that no one else got to hear, that was pretty damn funny. And, of course, I'm celebrating at the end of the night because I went home happy knowing that a certain somebody lost. And I'm talking about a Roundtable member.
I was not that impressed. The Rock spent most of his time on the apron. This should not have been the main event. I don't care how well the Tooth Fairy did at the box office. That's a spot that should go to somebody on the roster full time, not just somebody who's phoning it in. I did like that Cena tried a few technical moves early in the match. I thought that was a nice visual. It's a shame they didn't let him keep that up.
Technical what? Shoulder blocks?
For him? Yeah, I'm going to count that, considering that he spends a lot of time just squeezing his fist and looking angry.
That's a fucking standard for technicality. Ultimate Warrior is a fucking ringmaster.
All things considered, I'm going to buy that one. But seriously, I did not like that they put so much promo time and so much work and effort into promoting The Rock in the main event when that's time that should have gone to one of the belts. That makes both of the World Heavyweight titles look cheap in the eyes of the fans. And I don't think that's
bigger than any title.
Oh my God!
I just don't think it was fair for them to make this the main event. And I've I've never been a fan of taking a feud and turning them into a tag team, even for one night. We know that Cena and The Rock are supposed to wrestle at WrestleMania. Why would you have them team up together against Miz and R-Truth? That doesn't make sense.
Well, I'll grant you that the tag team of people who are feuding is really played out and tired, but completely disagree about title matches should go last. As I explained before, some things people want to see more than that. Undertaker's streak is fine to do it at WrestleMania, and The Rock is on that level too. Will Brooks, your thoughts on the match?
Yeah, I'm sorry, Corey. I got to disagree with you on that one, too. Everybody was there to see The Rock. That's why we bought tickets. That's why it was a must-see show. It's Madison Square Garden with The Rock. I mean, we're never going to see that again, probably. So you had to see it while you still can, and The Rock looked great. Not saying it was a great match. It was an okay match. It wasn't anything special. It was a regular tag match like Eric said. But that's why everybody was there. 90% of the people there was there to see The Rock. And the other 10% were miscellaneous because they probably were stupid enough not to realize who The Rock was or remember him. Boy, you're wrong in this case. Sometimes the match everyone wants to see should go last, and it has not to always be a title match. Now, I understand what you're saying. Sometimes you want the title matches to be most important on the show, and they should be less. I get it. But every now and then, you got to deviate from the plan when the money says so, and the money was saying so.
Well, that was WWE Survivor Series. I think a good time had by all for most part. But before we move on, let's go to some calls because some of you have been waiting a while, want to get to you, and thanks for holding. Sean in Florida, you are on.
My family and I were actually at the 2002 show, and that was actually my first pay-per-view, which I loved. It was great. But this one was kind of good. The boring match was Big Show and Mark Henry. The only thing I liked was the elbow drop and everybody chanting Macho Man. The chants of the crowd were fun, too. It was really
Actually, I'm sick of fans chanting. Do they have to chant every 5 fucking seconds? From the goddamn time they wouldn't let us in the building early enough, because that's been a problem at MSG before. It's not just the new one. To the time they leave the fucking building, everything is a chant. Maybe it's just because I was wrestled out that weekend. I was in 6 different states for fucking wrestling shows on that weekend. I was pretty worn out, but I was just like, enough with the fucking chanting.
I hate the what chants. That's the chant I really hate the most. But I like when they were chanting sex. I don't like the what chants.
What?
Thank you. I don't like the what chants. But the only thing I like was the sexual chocolate chant, the D'Lo Brown chant.
What?
And also I like the Macho Man chant. This was a good show. But the one other thing I want to mention is The Rock. There's a moment I want to talk about with The Rock very quickly. Mm-hmm. It was back in 2004 when The Rock returned to his hometown on Raw. And after Randy Orton confronted him and he attacked Orton and Eric Bischoff wanted to throw him out of the building, and The Rock was doing his edge on the mic, going up the ramp and leaving. But the one line I like what he said to Eric Bischoff was like, out of all the people you throw out of the building, you throw out on live TV, you throw out The Rock. No wonder WCW went out of business. I love that line. I can replay it all the time. It's just too funny. And the rest of it was funny too, like calling Tomko that he's from Kurai from the Straight Guy, and also telling the guards that they're Oompa Loompas and midgets. But that just the WCW line was, the WCW thing was the best part of Rock.
I thought it was interesting that the last match Rock had was at WrestleMania 20, a little over 7.5 years ago, also in a tag match in the same building. Jordan in Florida, you're on the roundtable.
Do you know Truth Martini personally? Because if he trips acid, I want to drop acid with him because I find the guy's hilarious.
Give me some of that acid. I'll shoot it up. It's really good.
Did you hear him, the way he says, like, with me? He's like, with me? Like, that last ROH show, it's, like, hilarious. And, by the way, from conspiracy person, other conspiracy person, if you're not, like, you know, watching the Glenn Keeley videos or the Alan Watts stuff, that's where it's at if you're into conspiracy. But the truth
Wrestling
is, like,
Roundtable was an inside job.
Ramon in Chicago, you are on.
I was actually very surprised when I found out that people at the Garden were actually chanting Zack Ryder's name while The Rock was giving a promo. I just thought that was amazing. Vince McMahon, it seems he's a big moment type of guy. WWE, it really focused on that big moment. You know what I'm talking about?
You mean like Big Show elbow drop?
Yeah, or like the huge title win where the confetti's dropped onto the ground, you know. And I find it funny.
This world.
And I just find it funny that a company that's so big on the big moment would pass up a big moment of Zack Ryder winning the United States title in his hometown in Madison Square Garden.
Could have been.
Whatever. Don't try and overspill milk.
Royce, you're back on. Got some more to say?
Oh yeah, Survivor Series. The whole show was kind of meh. It felt like filler leading up to like the previous caller say, a big moment kind of thing, like the glam slam off the second rope or the elbow drop.
Well, let me put it to you this way: going into the show, and you know I'm not a real fan of WWE right now, but looking at the card, I thought for what they are not so much capable but willing to do right now, it's not a bad card for like what they've set as their limitations. And I thought it was okay. Like I said, I was pretty burnt out, so there were moments where I was almost falling asleep. But it wasn't bad. I thought it was okay.
Yeah, I would say it was not bad, but it was kind of meh to me. There was nothing really like, wow, that was a great match. If I never saw a WWF show up to now and just saw this, I would have thought Ziggler was The Rock. The way the pops he was getting, it was almost like they seemed almost louder than what The Rock was. I would have thought he was the main eventer of the whole show if I never saw it before. Like,
you mean Ryder?
Yeah, like you would have never he was just so over. It's like almost bigger than Punk is right now, and he never did anything. He did a show, but it's like he never won anything, and he's already like damn near the biggest star of the show and the company, and it's crazy. And The Rock was pretty good too. It looked like he never missed a step. That main event, it didn't seem like it was structured well enough. It seemed like they wanted Cena to play like the face in peril. But the problem is, like, with that crowd, they're not going to sympathize with them. They're going to, kind of boo it and it's called boring and blah, blah, blah. So, of course, you can't, construct that match. I think they should have enough foresight to see, wow, we can't have him play that role in this match. The fans won't buy it. I mean, I think you should have had a little bit more of The Rock, because I think the whole point of the match was basically to show the fans, don't worry, he's still good. Don't worry about the match. He can still
don't worry about WrestleMania.
Yeah, it seemed like it reeked to that, okay. I was like that, I don't know, man. It's been 7 years. It's kind of a long time. And it did kind of work in that regard, okay, he still could do the Rock tricks and stuff like that, I guess.
Well, let me put it to you this way, because Bill Treadway was saying this on our Facebook, and I had to, I don't want to say put him in his place, but give him a new perspective, because he was worrying about ring rust, too. I had no worry whatsoever about Rock having ring rust, because if you've ever been in the ring, running the ropes, taking bumps, all that sort of stuff is ingrained in your head. It's in your body's memory. I guess kind of like riding a bike. You don't forget that stuff. And being at the level that he was for the several years that he was and the pedigree that he had, I had no worry whatsoever, even if it's been so long. This guy obviously stays in great shape, and there's no drug testing in Hollywood, that I didn't expect him to do any less than what he did. He did a good job, and he looked just as good as he always had. I didn't expect him to lose a step at all. But speaking of losing, I want to bring up in the post-Survivor Series aftermath, Will Brooks and Will Vafita. We had the Battle of Wills going into this. Survivor Series was going to be the culmination. What were the results?
I would like to say it's been one heck of a season, and Will Brooks did his best, but even with all the star power that he had, he could not beat the undercard of TLD, and it was 104-94. Me defeating Will Brooks in the first ever Battle of the Wills. I am officially now the BOW World Heavyweight Champion. Will Brooks will have to wear TLD merchandise and promote all my stuff.
We have a few minutes left, and with that time, I guess I'll mention some of the latest stuff going on, because there is this one user on YouTube, REH269 or some shit, that always complains we don't talk about Smackdown. Hey, sorry that we don't cover WWE Smackdown. It's not our fault that Vince McMahon cares about one show, obviously, and not the other. But the one that aired this past Friday or so was pretty noteworthy because Daniel Bryan tried cashing in the Money in the Bank briefcase on Mark Henry, who was, of course, hurt from the big show at Survivor Series. I thought the segment was really good. I wasn't upset about it at first. Mark Madden had a good column about it that did point out some inconsistencies that made me think, I guess I could see why people were pissed about it. But when I watched the original segment, I thought it was really good. The way Daniel Bryan came in and was struggling to get Mark Henry over, was very dramatic, and standing up on the commentator's table, flaunting the belt in front of Michael Cole. I thought it was really good. At least he still got the briefcase, so it's not like he's been killed or anything like that just yet. There's still a chance for Daniel Bryan, and let's see how it plays out.
Well, I was very happy the way it played out. Daniel Bryan catching it and kind of getting screwed out of it. I love the idea of it. It now refreshes our minds that he does have money in the bank, that he could cash it in, and just he didn't get that opportunity, but he did earn a real title shot after that, and obviously had his match tonight for it. I thought it was played out very well.
I thought it was also actually kind of useful in a way that Michael Cole was like, he's a hypocrite, yelling about how Daniel Bryan said that he was going to use it at WrestleMania. Well, isn't that kind of smart in a way? Like setting people up to think that he's going to use it at a certain point and then using it beforehand? It actually kind of worked in his favor.
The fans reacted to it, too. You could see how the crowd reacted. They really were shocked. That's what Money in the Bank does.
I've never been a fan of the concept, really. I think it's too akin to the 24/7 hardcore title thing, and I've grown weary of it being used the same way so often in this opportunistic way. I think it's kind of cheap. People like it, so maybe I'm wrong, but it's not like it's all lost. He got the briefcase back. Hell, he could win the fucking Rumble and be having 2 title shots in his back pocket.
Especially in today's world of impatience, it doesn't surprise me that they pulled the trigger a little earlier than WrestleMania. So it doesn't really bother me that he did it. He got the briefcase, so make him look a little bit better, because instead of just waiting in the wings, not doing anything, at least now he's like in the main event of Smackdown every week, or at least doing something to the point where it makes it like, hey, watch this Bryan Danielson guy. You know, you want to keep an eye on him, man. He's doing something right now. He might be champion. Who knows? So it makes him a little more interesting. They're going to do anything with the guy. You got to make him at least have the fans to be interested in him to begin with.
At least he's in the mix, in the title scene, and I guess that's what counts here. We'll see how it plays out. Again, not all is lost. So that's the same thing I'm saying about Wrestling Roundtable. Not all is lost. Thank you for listening. Thank you for chatting. Thank you for joining our group on Facebook, following us on Twitter, following us on YouTube, subscribing there. Share, rate, comment, and subscribe wherever you're listening to us, whether it's YouTube, iTunes, Blog Talk Radio, our 2 Facebook pages, fan page and group page. Sign up for the message board. Please keep supporting Wrestling Roundtable. We'll be back in a couple weeks. We're going to talk about UFC 140, John Jones defending against Lyoto Machida, and much more. So for the panel of Amira Rahim, Coriander Ake, Will Brooks, Will Vafides, Alex Payne too, and all the callers, thank you very much. I'm Eric Santamaria. Join us on WrestlingRoundtable.com.